Hi, I just wanted to give some thoughts on the relations between law enforcement and the African American community. This is, of course, a topic that has been in the news so much in recent years, unfortunately, because of all the police involved fatal shootings of African Americans, and especially in light of the verdict of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin being found guilty on all three counts in the death of George Floyd, which of course sparked international protests in 2020, and also several cases, but most recently, a case in my hometown of Columbus, Ohio, of a police officer, Nicholas Reardon, shooting and killing a 16-year-old girl, Ma'Khia Bryant. And I actually contributed to a story in the Daily Beast about that case. And I think we need to educate ourselves about this. A book that I would recommend reading is called The Black and the Blue by a 28-year African-American veteran of the police force named Matthew Horace. He explains the complex relationship between police and African Americans and why there often is mistrust. And Matthew Horace goes into what he believes are some solutions. And I think these solutions need to be explored because African Americans want to have safe communities just as much as anybody else, but we want to have safe communities that don't involve our own people being constantly put at risk whenever they're stopped by police for any particular reason. Another way to educate ourselves is by watching some of the excellent movies that have been made in recent years about criminal justice issues. One of the movies that I found most moving was The Hate U Give, which is of course based on a best-selling novel. So I would definitely recommend checking out The Hate U Give and Googling some other movies, many of them by African-American filmmakers that address the complex issues involved in criminal justice when it comes to African Americans. And then also, I think a lot of times we are so focused on America and America's race problem, and rightfully so, but we also need to understand that structural racism when it comes to law enforcement is a global problem. I recently watched a YouTube video, and I'll put the link in the description, about racial profiling in Toronto, Canada, of all places. I think Americans, we tend to think of Canada as like having solved all the problems that we have here. But obviously, the protest over George Floyd's murder would not have resulted in protests around the world if police brutality and racial profiling and over-policing of people of color was not a global problem. So in order to wrap our arms around this problem and to hopefully work towards solutions, I think we need to understand and approach this from a global perspective. I'll also put the link to a podcast that I recently listened to called Tell Us the Truth, an episode about structural racism in Great Britain in light of the interview that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry did with Oprah Winfrey. That episode of Tell Us the Truth really sheds light on the global problem of racism. So maybe the Chauvin verdict will lead to some lasting change. I'm certainly hopeful that it will. So those are my thoughts for now.